Hi. You know, of all the services that I offer, the one that I get the most questions about and the most interest in is debt reduction. Probably because almost everybody in the world has debt. People usually ask me, what do you do that's different? How do you approach debt? Do you use this system? Do you use this person's principles? There's an important thing that we need to understand when it comes to debt reduction, and that is that what we need is right thinking and right tools, both of those things working together. There are some old principles that will always hold true for sure. One being spend less than you make. The other being don't buy something if you can't afford it. Now, the problem is I don't have a time machine and most of my clients don't, and we can't go back in time and change decisions that were already made. So most of us have some debt. So then the question is, how do we get out of debt in the most efficient manner? Well, there are three traditional methods I'd like to just go over briefly with you. One is making extra payments, and this can take the form of a bi-weekly mortgage where essentially you're making an extra mortgage payment every year, or just sending in an extra principal payment on any kind of a debt. We're familiar with these. Most people don't do them, but we're familiar with how they work. For that to be effective and have much of an impact on your total debt balance, it requires a lot of discretionary income, more than most of us have. The other problem we run into is, how do we know where to apply the money? So let's say I have $200 in discretionary income for this month. Where do I put it? Well, it's real simple if I only have one debt, say my mortgage. I put it as a principal payment towards my mortgage. That's easy. Well, what if I have two debts? Well, then there's two possible places I could put it, and not factoring in the idea of splitting up the payment between both of them, which may actually be the most efficient thing to do. But for simplicity's sake, let's just say we don't split payments. Well, what if there's three debts that I have? Maybe a car payment, a mortgage, and a credit card. Where do I apply my money? There's not three possibilities, there's actually six. The average consumer has 13 debts of some kind. What do you think the number of combinations of payments there are that you would have to figure out every month to know the best thing to do with your discretionary money? 20, 50, 100? It's actually 6,227,000, 20,800. That's a lot. That's more calculations than I have time to do or the math skills to do. And so the idea of making extra payments just ends up not being a very efficient means for most people. The second strategy a lot of people take is negotiating balances down with the creditors. This can be done by credit counseling services, attorneys. There's some issues with that too. One is you're going to pay attorney or agency fees, and that is money that could be applied to more principal balance. Another issue is that generally those strategies are going to affect your credit rating, usually not in a positive way. The biggest problem with that strategy is that it's simply not guaranteed to give you the result you want. There's no guarantee that a creditor is going to really work with you. And so you're really putting a lot into someone else's decision-making process. The last and the most popular way of approaching debt reduction is refinancing or consolidating debt, usually for a lower interest rate. This is actually the least effective of all of those methods. You may lower your rate, you may lower your payment, but here's what happens. First, you have to qualify to refinance or consolidate based on your credit. Not everybody can do that. The second thing is it adds finance fees. So you're actually adding to your principal balance. And what you're doing is you're resetting the clock. Let's say that you're the average consumer and you refinance your mortgage every 5 years. You might lower your payment, you might lower your interest rate, but you just reset it out to 30 years again. And so what ends up happening is most people don't actually bring their principal balance down more rapidly by refinancing. In fact, a lot of consumers go the other direction and add to their balance. Is there a better way? Well, what we need is a combination of sound historical principles and new thinking based on the financial instruments that are available today. Think about this for a minute. 100 years ago, CDs, mortgages as they are today, universal life insurance, mutual funds, individual retirement accounts, 401ks, student loans. A lot of these financial instruments were simply not available to our grandparents. Yet, most of us wouldn't think of having a financial plan without using these. So we may use the same principles our grandparents used, but we have to adjust to the realities of the instruments that are available to us today and the financial efficiency of instruments that simply didn't exist 100 years ago. The next video is going to talk about what type of thinking and tools are needed to eliminate debt efficiently.